The year is 2025 and one of the best Terrys in the world just dropped his matchup list for the character. Let's get at it. So the good thing about maining Terry is that there are tons of strong players that play him. My two personal favorites are Riddles from Canada and Kintyo from Japan. But when it comes to the Terry that drops the most knowledge and helps people improve the most, I honestly think that title needs to go to Kintyo. And I think that gets proven with his matchup list. And I'm going to show you exactly why this matchup list is important, and it might actually help you in your gameplay as well. So before I get into the matchup list, I just have to preface that his matchup list comes from ultra grandmaster level players. It's going to look way different than an intermediate level player's matchup list because there's levels to this game. But I do want to highlight some things that might surprise people and some things that might answer some questions as to why we're struggling in some matchups with Terry. And just for fun, I'll actually throw in my intermediate player level tier list at the end because that's the level that I consider myself. And if you don't agree with that tier list, the only natural response is to send me death threats, of course. Be nice to everybody, like, comment, subscribe, and let's get into this video. So here's Kintyo's matchup list, and Kintyo goes as far as saying that he thinks Terry's the best character in the game. Whether I agree or not might be a topic for another video altogether, but you can see that's reflected in his matchup list because most of his matchups are either going to be 5-5 or better, and I'm talking about the vast majority of his matchups in Kintyo's eyes. And the way that he labeled this is that it starts off with the easiest character on the left, and then each matchup gets progressively harder in that tier list. So for 5-5, to him, Luke is the easiest in the 5-5 matchups, and Akuma is the hardest. But let's talk about some of the obvious things and some of the not so obvious things as to why these matchups are the way that they are. So right off the bat, let's talk about an obvious one. He has Marisa losing 6-4 to Terry, and this is no surprise. Japan thinks Marisa is very weak because she's just very easily whiff punishable. You know, you can throw out moves and they're gonna clip her on recovery. Doesn't matter what she does, you're gonna be at the advantage. She's very easily to parry and things like that. But her best move, this Gladius attack, even though it is a strong move against a lot of characters, if you have moves that hit low, you're gonna beat it all the time because it doesn't have armor at the bottom. And if you have a long crouch medium kick like Terry, I know I got clipped there, but if you have a long crouch medium kick, you're gonna be able to be so annoying with this move because it's gonna really stop the one thing that she has to really get the party started. So 6-4, I totally get it. I don't think many people are going to disagree with this, especially at the top level. So the first one that was surprising on the tier list is that he thinks Terry beats Aki 6-4. And a lot of people were asking questions in the comment section. And to him, it all comes down to the power of the low power wave in this matchup. And a lot of Terry's matchup stuff in this tier list that Kintyo talks about is revolved around his low power wave, for better or for worse. So essentially he says the strongest thing about Aki in this game is that she can drive rush after a fireball, and that's how she really is annoying to deal with, and very few characters can safely check it. But he's saying because Terry's low power wave goes through that, it kind of negates her best approaching tool, so she has to come up with different unorthodox ways to go on offense against Terry, and that's when Terry can capitalize. But essentially he's saying if you can take away a character's strongest tool, you're gonna do okay in the matchup, and he actually has Terry winning 6-4. So low power wave is very strong in this matchup. If you're not using it, you gotta check it out. One that's not debatable at all in my opinion, the very obvious one, he has Guile beating Terry 6-4, and I agree. To me, this is easily Terry's worst matchup in the game, and it comes down to this situation right over here. Terry cannot compete in the fireball game with Guile. He always gets clipped on startup on his power waves. Guile can 8 times out of 10 will recover, before the low power wave gets through. And it's so hard for Terry to get in because even things like crack shoots are so predictable in this range, in this matchup, that Guile can just flash kick you out of it. So I can completely see why this matchup is considered very bad for Terry, because he's the one that has to take all the risks, and he really has to struggle with his drive bar in this matchup against Guile. I think this is Terry's hardest matchup. Doesn't matter what level you're at, you're going to be struggling in this matchup, and I'm glad Kintyo agrees because it doesn't make me sound as crazy anymore. The other matchup that really surprised people that he had was he thinks that Terry beats Ken, and I'll be honest with you, I actually find Ken easier to fight than the other two Shotos, Ryu and Akuma, in this game, and I think it comes down to his fireball game. But similar to Aki, one of Terry's best tools to be annoying is if he gets the right read on you in a fireball war, he can hit you with an EX fireball into Drive Rush Fierce or whatever, and you're just going to be, in a very bad mood. But because Terry has that low fireball again, this actually takes, a very annoying tool away from Ken, and it actually helps Terry in the zoning matchup way better than other Shotos. And then once you take that, little piece away from Ken, the matchup will be more doable, the more experience that you have. But I clearly can see why he thinks Ken is easier than Akuma and Ryu. Alright, so another matchup that people were surprised about, that Kintyo actually thinks that Terry beats JP. And he says it comes down to two reasons. The first is, he thinks a lot of JP players are going to struggle with Terry's drive rush fierce kick, so that move over there. And I can kind of see that as well, because if you're just going to be autopiloting with JP and just doing, your zoning like this, you're not expecting this move to come at you full screen and then Terry gets a punish counter combo off. And he can continue this even meterless in a lot of examples if, you're spaced closer. So not only are you getting big damage, you're being in a situation where Terry gets to send you to the corner, keep the pressure going, and JP is really going to struggle in the corner against Terry, for the second reason that Kintyo thinks this matchup is good for Terry. The next thing that Kintyo says that Terry gets a lot of mileage out of is his round wave. So a lot of JPs are going to do OD amnesia when they wake up, especially in the corner. According to Kintyo, because this will beat amnesia, or any projectile will beat it, Terry gets a lot of mileage out of it because he can go into very strong combos after that don't cost a ton of meter either. The thing to remember here is that yes, JP can perfect parry it and then send Terry full screen, but according to Kintyo, because the fact that Terry has ways to get back in, that risk versus reward is very in favor for Terry, so he's happy to throw this out to be annoying. Alright, so the next one that really caught people by surprise is Kintyo actually thinks that Terry beats Rashid. And I'll be honest with you, I don't have any Rashid experience, so I can't really comment on this. So if anybody knows why he might think this, feel free to leave that comment in the comment section, and I'm happy to reference this in future videos. But he thinks that Terry beats one of the best characters in the game, so it's definitely worth noting. And then the last one that really surprised people was E Honda beating Terry. And let me tell you, this one did not surprise me at all, and I'm going to tell you why. For starters, I play against an extremely high level E Honda player, just a very good Street Fighter player in general, as you can see his stats right now. So I've had my fair share of, getting my whoopings from Honda. And this is what I've noticed in the matchup, and thankfully Kintyo agrees and he cited some of these as well. The first thing is, you need to respect Honda's headbutt because it goes over your round wave. It's not going to clash like other fireballs, and this trade is so in Honda's favor. Even if you perfect parry it, you're not going to be doing that much damage back to him, and you better hope that you recover in time to get up like a DP or something like that. But this is one of the big reasons that Honda does very well in this matchup. Now the other reason Honda does very well against Terry is these two normals, so Honda's stand medium punch and his fierce punch, just eat Terry for breakfast. I don't know what it is. They are just in the perfect sweet spot to be annoying on Terry, and stand medium punch is actually plus on blocks, so you have to keep that in mind as well. And Honda will just pester Terry with this because Terry's normals are good, but they're not elite, so he's not going to be able to be annoying back. Not to say Honda has elite normals, but Honda just found that sweet spot on Terry, and his stand fierce just annihilates Terry. Like, it's so hard for Terry to compete with this normal in some ranges. And once Honda gets you this, you're eating 3,000 plus damage because it's a punish counter combo. And let's be honest, you're going to be big sad after that. And then when you add all those together, it just makes Honda very hard for Terry to pressure and to bully. So he can advance and just hold down back, and Terry has a very hard time. And again, crack shoot is not very valuable in this matchup because Honda doesn't have a fireball. So you just have to prepare to, get ready to grind it out against Honda, because he definitely is one of Terry's tougher matchups. It's not unwinnable, of course, but you're going to be having a tough time, especially if the Honda knows what they're doing. And lastly, if I could rapid fire through this, I'll just quickly, give my explanations as to why I think he has them there, because he didn't list them. Obviously, he thinks he beats Jamie because Jamie sucks. I think the same thing with DJ having to deal with the fireballs that go under his might be annoying, so I can see him thinking he beats DJ. Again, the low fireball clashing out with Jury's fireball, I can see why he thinks that helps Terry. Lily sucks. Manon sucks. Mai is new, but she's not in the strongest state right now. And obviously I'm just being facetious when I say characters suck, but Terry is stronger than these characters right now. And then for the 5-5s, Luke, standard Shoto, I can see why this is 5-5. Cammy might surprise a lot of people, But I think if you have a lot of Cammy experience and you know how to safely deal with her dive kicks better, or just deal with it better in general, you're gonna do okay in this matchup. And she still has to hit Terry a lot of times to kill him, and Terry can end her in 1 or 2 sequences, so that's gonna be big. Blanca, I can see why it's 5-5 at this level. I think at the intermediate level, Terry actually beats Blanca, but I'll get into that after. Kimberly 5-5, I can see this as well. Ryu again, Standard Shoto. Dalzum, this one surprised me because at the intermediate level, I think Dalzum does really well against Terry, but it might just be overall matchup knowledge. Zangief is another one. I think that at the intermediate level, Terry slightly beats Zangief, but I can see at the pro level why it might be different. And then Ed and Akuma are pretty standard. If you know how to fight them, you're going to do well against them, but they're not going to, abuse you like some of the characters in the lower section over here. Chun-Li, Honda, Bison, basically the reason they're here is one, Bison is broken, but other than that, they can fight Terry in Terry's sour spots, so they really can thrive in the areas that Terry struggles in. And Terry really can't push buttons, especially against Bison, because everything is going to get crushed by his crouch medium kick or crouch medium punch, whatever, into bomb, and then you're just going to be crying, right? And then Guile, do I really need to explain it? Guile is just Terry's nemesis. So that's my rapid fire. Hope I made sense in some of these. If anyone knows anything about Rashid, I'm happy to put it in. And for those interested, I've updated my matchup list, and this is for 1700 MR and below. So I consider this to be like intermediate level players, and I consider 1800 plus to be advanced, and then moving into pros, etc. For me, nothing really changes on 6-4 except I have Marisa there. I move Aki from 6-4 to 5-5 because of our levels. I think there's still, a lot of matchup knowledge that you need to know going into the Aki match. But the biggest changes I would say that I have is that I have Blanca and Zangief for slight advantages at this range, because I do think they need to work a bit harder because their normals, can get abused by Terry. So they have to put that thought process into everything. But I can totally see this being 5-5 at the highest level. And then going into 5-5, I have someone like Rashid here who I don't know much about, so I put him here as well. And some of the characters that Kintyo said that Terry does bad against, like Chun-Li, I still think at this level, because Chun-Li still has to work a bit for it, I put her at 5-5, but I can see at the top level why it'd be tough for him. And then the 5 hardest matchups for Terry, I honestly think at this level, is first Dalzum. I just think this comes down to most people not knowing how to play against Dalzum, and that's a big part of it. But Terry needs to take advantage of the fact that Dalzum can't do a lot of damage, so he can take a risk in that matchup, but you got to learn the matchup. Honda and Cammy are tough for Terry. I've already showed why Honda is tough. But Cammy, I think, just takes a certain level of matchup knowledge where you have to learn how to comfortably deal with her dive kicks and her other shenanigans. And at this current level, it's a lot harder to do that than, with the pros reaction or matchup knowledge. So I have him losing slightly to Cammy and Honda. And then the bad matchups are Bison and Guile. Guile, I've already gone through it in depth. I don't have to do it. But I'm putting Bison in this because at this level, again, 1700 and below, Bison's just a beast. And if you're not comfortable or you're not playing the game a lot and you don't know how to deal with his bomb pressure, you're going to be on the wrong end of a lot of games. So I have Bison here because he is just a big avalanche steamroll type of character. And unless you're playing the game a lot and you have that knowledge in check, you're going to be having a rough time with his bombs and things like that. So this is my quick matchup list. Again, I think Terry's a very good character as well, especially after the latest update. Let me know what you think. Comment, subscribe, and let's talk about it. Peace out, everybody.